Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome to the BCAT. BCAT. Yeah, this is BCAT. Board of Selectmen's meeting for June 8th, 2020. General session. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, which stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Priest, I believe you have something to read for us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. One moment while I pull it up. Alrighty. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this public hearing of the Town of Burlington Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen or view this meeting while in progress as broadcast on BCAT Government Cable Access Television, BCAT Government Coverage Facebook Live, or by using the link provided in the agenda for our WebEx Cisco online meeting on your phone at 408-418-9388, meeting number 129-327-5809. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by commenting on the BCAT Government Government Coverage Facebook Live page, the chat function on the WebEx virtual meeting, or via telephone at 781-270-1635. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't have any public hearings on the agenda this evening, but I know that Selectman Priest will be monitoring the comments on Facebook Live and WebEx chat, and Betty and I will monitor the phone line in case anything comes in. And just as a reminder to the board that all votes are required by roll call for our virtual meetings.
Absolutely. Thank you. So why don't we start with first on the agenda, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, we have an appointment in our fire department. I would like to turn it over to Chief Patterson, and Assistant Chief Connerty is also here to talk about an appointment we have for the position of dispatcher in our fire department.
Mike, you're on mute. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we are looking to fill a civilian fire dispatcher position. We interviewed 3 candidates recently. Myself, Assistant Chief Connerty, and Human Resources Director Joanne Faust interviewed the 3 candidates. After the interviews, we felt that the candidate whose name we're presenting tonight would be the best fit for our department. So at this time, I'm pleased to present Patrick O'Halloran. Patrick is a Burlington resident. He was a graduate of Burlington High School, graduating in 2017. The name may be familiar to you. He was a multi-sport athlete at Burlington High School. Hockey and baseball were his primary sports. He attended Plymouth State University in Plymouth, New Hampshire. He currently is a certified emergency medical technician. He's also CPR certified. It's Patrick's long-range goal to become a member of the Burlington Fire Department as a firefighter paramedic. So, real pleased to present his name to the board, and we hope we'd accept him.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, any questions, comments, or would you like to go, Mr. Sagarino?
Thank you very much for that, Chief
Paul?
Patterson. And I know Patrick is here in the WebEx room with us. And, with the chief's recommendation, I would appoint Patrick O'Halloran to the position of civilian fire dispatcher in the Burlington Fire Department and ask that the board waive the waiting period.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Tiggs and second by Mr. Hogan. Okay, at this point, we'll do a roll call vote. Gentlemen, Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Tiggs,
Yes.
Mr. Priest. Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Okay, there you are. And Mr. Mirandy's a yes. Betty, did you receive that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Halloran, I'd like to welcome you to the Burlington Fire Department. I know you know where it is. You've been in town a long time. I think you're going to be a great asset when the time arrives to finally get in there as a full member. Come from a great background, great family, good parents, breed good children. All I can really say. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, Mr. Hogan, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, congratulations, Patrick. Welcome to the family. Thank you.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes, Joe, I think you summed it up nicely. Welcome, Patrick. I'm sure you're going to do a great job for us.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Tiggs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Patrick. I love when our best candidates are residents, and just thank you to the fire chief, assistant fire chief, and Joanne for their efforts. Welcome aboard, Patrick.
Thank you.
Mr. Priest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We'd shake your hand, but we'll do a fist pump later on. All right. It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of weeks ago, the board conducted interviews for a vacant position on the Housing Authority, and were introduced to a resident, Ms. Kerry Donahue, who has extensive experience in housing matters. Each of you had suggested that we inquire with Ms. Donahue to see if she would have interest in serving on the town's housing partnership, and I'm happy to report that she is willing to serve on that committee. I'm not sure if Selectman Runyon has any additional comments from the housing partnership perspective that he wants to add to this.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I reached out to Kerry after our last meeting when we all first met her. We had a lengthy discussion, and at that time, I felt she would certainly be an asset to the community. She has a sincere desire, excuse me, to get more involved in town, and I thought the Housing Partnership Committee would be a great fit for her. So I look forward to working with Kerry and Jim Doherty and the rest of the Housing Partnership Committee. We've got several items that we need to be dealing with in the very near future, and Kerry will be a big asset. And I hope we can get a unanimous vote here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Miss Paul, would you like to just go right to the motions, or?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Selectman Runyon. With that, I wish to appoint Kerry Donahue to a position on the Burlington Housing Partnership and ask the board waive that its standard 15-day waiting period.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Mike. All those, oh, here we go. Never mind. Road call. Almost forgot, guys. So a roll call vote. Mr. Hogan. Did you wave your hand? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Runyon.
Yes.
Mr. Tiggs.
Yes.
Mr. Priest.
Yeah.
Mr. Morandi, yes. So 500. Congratulations. Is she on the?
Yes, she is, Mr. Chairman.
Is, yeah.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate that you reached out to me after the Housing Authority interview, and I talked to Mike, and I really feel like I could bring a lot to the committee, so look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I think you're going to be a great asset to us. Looking at your resume last time, I'm glad you accepted this position. Mike's already said something, but Jimmy, you have anything you want to add?
Just briefly, again, great resume. I think you're an asset to the town, and just welcome aboard.
Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Terry, I know, it's not a lifelong Burlington resident, but you hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, you may need to speak a little louder, Nick.
Okay. But her dedication and background obviously are second to none, and we're very much looking forward to having you as part of the Housing Partnership Committee. So thank you for, committing to it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan.
Carrie, it's wonderful that even the first time we didn't get you on board, it's nice to know the second shot we did. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Carrie. Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have Melissa Taxis, the town's economic development director here to update the board on a couple of exciting grant opportunities she is pursuing for the town. Melissa?
Good evening, Selectmen. Thank you for having me. As Paul mentioned, this is really an update. We are collaborating with Mass Fire and the town of Bedford to put together a proposal for CDBG funds, which Burlington isn't typically eligible for, but currently the federal government has put forth additional funds. The CARES Act. Are you guys hearing the echo I'm hearing?
Yes.
What is that?
Okay, I've muted everybody, Melissa. So I'm going to unmute you now, Melissa, and you are the only one who will be unmuted.
Okay, how was that?
All set.
See if that's better. Okay. There's still a little echo, isn't there? Or less so. One moment. Okay. I'm going to try it again. See if that's better. Better? Okay. Thanks. Okay. So thanks again for having me. This is really an update for everyone. As you know, that there are federal stimulus packages through the CARES Act that has given money to different resources. Most of them have been directed for, larger efforts in terms of going through the Small Business Association. There's been a small portion of the money that's also gone through CDBG, which is a community block grant, community development block grant. And typically Burlington's not eligible, but they have put aside money for non-entitlement communities as well. And the town of Bedford and Mass Hire are putting together a proposal to address some of the job training in life science and health, which kind of connects to our larger mission around economic development and this, the goals to achieve a greater presence in life science. This component works more specifically in workforce development. And we've identified a need in general. We see about between the two communities, there's about 10,000 households that meet the income requirement. Both communities are experiencing near 12% unemployment. And as we kind of make some reasonable projections, we see a significant population that could, not significant, a large population that could potentially benefit from the grant. The grant would provide training through various programs that already exist through Middlesex Community College and some other locations that are a little bit further out, but the one we're targeting is Middlesex Community College, that are 1 and 2 year programs that help get entry-level employment for folks. The amount is for a total of, between both communities, $500,000. At the same time, we're also working with MAPC for a similar funding source to be part of a micro enterprise grant program. And that is related to small businesses, 5 employees or less. And we're combining efforts with 22 other communities. And if we're fortunate to receive that loan, that would bring $150,000 to Burlington, specifically targeted for grants for smaller businesses.
Thank you, Melissa. That's wonderful. Gentlemen, we'll go with comments. Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's wonderful that we can work with Mass Hire in this way to kind of ignite the job market a little bit. So, Melissa, thank you for your efforts.
Mr. Tigas.
Melissa, quick question. This is a Bedford and Burlington combined effort. Is this geared toward Burlington and Bedford residents, or Burlington and Bedford businesses strictly, or do they get preference? How does that work?
How's it working? Well, specifically the way it's designed is a program for Burlington and Bedford residents. So if you're a resident of either community, you'd be eligible. But it furthers kind of the larger strategic goal around developing the life science, because not only do we have Leahy, which is doing some R&D and some, has some portion of healthcare, but we're also working with Bedford that has some light manufacturing that does some medical device development. So between the two, the idea is that we could train some local residents, expand the local workforce locally, and then also start partnering with these existing companies that we already have kind of in our backyard to give the job opportunities to connect.
Great, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Melissa, for doing this. It's always nice to use other people's money to help out our residents. Technical questions. Is these 2 separate votes or 1 vote together?
1 vote together, I believe. Paul, do you know?
This is, from our standpoint, just an update to the board as to exciting grants that Melissa's pursuing right now. So something a little bit different from the types of things we're able to pursue on a regular basis. Workforce investment and workforce training is definitely exciting and new for us to start getting involved in that aspect of our local economy. So she wanted to update the board that these grant applications are going in, and just wanted you to be aware of them. And we have our fingers crossed that we'll have success in receiving these funds for these purposes.
Okay, good enough.
Thank you. Mr. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have anything to add on the CDBG portion of it, but I do want to say that Melissa's been a regular visitor with us in recent weeks, and I know she's been very, very busy assisting local businesses. And so I just wanted to thank the board, you guys, for all the hard work we've done to create that position. And I think it's pretty evident that it's a position that's we needed here in town, and Melissa's doing a great job.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Melissa, I have to agree with Selectman Runyon and everybody else. I think we made a great hire by bringing you on. It's definitely paying off for the town of Burlington. So
Wow.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm actually really excited about this program too. I think it fits in well with our kind of longer term goals. And as we kind of start connecting and making, kind of the larger marketing efforts around what we've done so far, we can be able to point from everything from January, starting to change the land use, developing a workforce program, if we can kind of really get this launched. And meet some of the bigger goals we've set out for. So I'm excited about that for us.
Thank you. So there's no vote on this, Paul, right? There's just an update, even though it does set approval.
Yes, I'm not aware, Melissa. We don't need any approval from the board to proceed with the grants, do we?
No, not at this
No,
time.
we just take the money. All right. So at that point, you want to go right to the next one, Paul?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as the board is aware, we have a dedicated team of town employees and elected officials that have been diligently working on a reopening plan for the town's businesses. Tonight, we have an update from Melissa and a request for approval for 3 votes from the board to temporarily delegate authority in a couple different areas to allow us the maximum in flexibility and quickness in responding to restaurant requests to open up outside under Governor Baker's orders. At this point, I'll turn it over to Melissa, but we also have our building inspector, Andy Youngerson is here. And I just want to let the board know that they've been working in conjunction with Kristen Kasner from our planning department, Susan Luminello from the Board of Health, Sergeant Jerry McDonough from the police department, and Captain Mike Hannafin from the fire department. All put a ton of effort into this. Also working with Barbara LaRue, the chairman of our planning board, and Selectman Morandi, representing the Board of Selectmen. They put in a ton of effort. It's pretty complicated, and I just at this point I'll turn it over to Melissa so she can update the board on the details of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Yes, this item actually kind of started before we got the declaration from the governor. If you recall, we worked with the planning board to set a joint statement essentially of support for our local businesses. And that kind of set the framework for staff to help review things kind of as a little bit of a task force team and expedite smaller temporary requests that were coming up under the state of emergency. In particular, the outdoor dining was a big question for folks. So last week, as Paul mentioned, the team, Andy driving his building team, Susan and Christine from health, Kristen from planning, and then Mike Hannafin, as well as Jerry McDonough, working from the public safety pieces, have reviewed some of the initial requests. But over the last few days of the end of last week, the governor essentially put forward a declaration that said, to help streamline it for all communities, your Board of Selectmen can essentially delegate the powers to a separate administrative review. In this case, we're proposing that Paul be the kind of empowered with the power to approve these temporary requests. And all these outdoor seating requests that are coming through are verified by that task team we mentioned and would be flagged for any safety issues. But ultimately, it would be based on an action to approve this delegation that then you guys would give Paul the power to approve it and move on, so that as early as tomorrow, certain businesses can open up with more additional seating than they would have had otherwise. That's the main piece. Do you have questions on that?
So what we're gonna do, Melissa, is we're gonna go through the list of selectmen, and I'll let them ask you questions. If some of them are answers that I have, then we'll go
Okay.
from there. Other than that, we'll start with Mr. Runyon.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have any questions. I was reviewing those documents over the weekend, and I believe they're satisfactory as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you very much. Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have no questions. The documentation looks pretty good to me.
Great, thank you. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Melissa, do we have any input to make some recommendations or suggestions based on our readings?
Yes.
Okay. And would we do that before we vote to give final approval and quick approval to Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, are we going to be doing that at some point tonight?
That's a good question. A really good question. So if I understand the question correctly, what are you actually looking for, Bob? Just so I'm on the same
Well, I
page.
want to make sure that the things that we've been talking about are put somewhere on paper, that those are our considerations and our concerns.
As far as the alcohol subcommittee went?
Yes.
Those
Yes.
questions? Okay. I'm just asking because I want to make sure we're right.
Yeah. No.
Mr. Sagarino sat in on those meetings, and he knows what we're looking for. So I would give him the authority to do that, because I don't believe he would go around us and just say, yeah, you guys can do it, but the other one can't. And that's why we put Mr. Sagarino in that position. So I definitely understand your concerns, Bob, about the things we had talked about earlier, but having Mr. Sagarino already go over these with us, I think at this point, what we'll do is, when it comes to a vote, I'm going to give him my full authority on this. Do you agree with me on that?
As long as in the end, the things that we've talked about are there, yes.
Okay.
Because
All
we've
right,
done
great.
this, we've given this authority in the past also.
Yes, we have. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Mr. Tigas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, maybe this is a logistic question. When the requests come in, what's the timeliness on the approval? I mean, how long does it take for you, or will it take for you to look at a request and then give it the okay, or turn it down?
Thank you, Selectman Tigas. The whole purpose of it is for it to be done safely and quickly. And, I'll be relying on the team's approval first. And then once we receive the approval from the team members, then, it'll be ready for me to review. And I can ask my questions at that point. But the whole purpose of this operation is for us to be able to respond quickly and sort of get people up and running as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, you may.
The only request I would have is just to, as the requests come in, just CC or let us know as the requests come in, just so we have an idea of who's requesting what. That's all.
Our intention would be, Jim, would be to provide the board once the full package is and we're ready to give the go-ahead, we would alert the board at that time. And again, these are all very temporary in nature, intended to last through the reopening period, and we're not sure, 30, 60 days. I think the governor's order expires in the fall, but these are really quick and temporary, and anything that we permit or allow, we'll be able to rescind as well, based upon additional concerns, or if somebody is not in compliance with the guidelines and what we set up, we'll have the ability to rescind the license and the permit.
Thank you. The only reason I asked that, Paul, is because I'm sure other members of the board have also been asked. They're asking us, when do you think X, Y, and Z is going to open? When do you think this is going to open? At least now we have some answers that we can tell them. Other than we don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Melissa.
I could help add to that a little bit too. Between the last couple days, and over the weekend, we have about 14 restaurants that have requested some kind of 13 to 14 restaurants that have requested some kind of outdoor seating. Some are a little bit more straightforward than others. And Andy and his team, I don't know if Andy, you want to speak to that anymore, but they've started to look at it so that we've already kind of started to flag some issues that have been relayed back to the restaurant owner, and those will come back. And with the recommendations from staff, I think Paul will be able to have enough information to approve them as soon as possible, because I think we're trying to get the seating up as early as possible for folks, to, just bring back the employment, bring back the activity as much as possible.
Andy, any comment on that? You're on mute, Andy.
Eddie, can you help me out?
You go. You're all set.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The team has been working diligently at this, and one of the biggest concerns that we have is the safety of the patrons going to these restaurants. Many of our establishments are looking to expand into their parking lot areas or into areas where it's close to vehicle traffic. So our concerns are getting some form of barrier protection up to protect the patrons and those who are seated at the restaurants. Both their Officer McDonough and Captain Hannafin with the fire department have voiced their concern over several of our projects, but we are trying to help them out as quickly as we can, and offering them other suggestions or other methods to protect their patrons getting in there. We too would like to see these businesses open up as quickly as possible, but of course with safety, to get Burlington as active as it was prior to our shutdown here.
Thank you, Andy. I think that answers one of the questions that we had earlier tonight, was about some of the things that we had talked about, Paul. The safety, the traffic, the distance between the patrons and the cars, the exhaust fumes, all that kind of stuff. So that's actually a really good sign for us as a board to know that it's on top of that with Mr. McDonough and Andy and everybody else involved. So that's a huge positive for us. The only thing I'm going to comment on this is that, these restaurants really want to open in a very timely fashion. And if we're going to be getting an email every time one opens, I hope we all respond in a very quick manner to Mr. Sagarino with any concerns we have, so he can approve this, because we're going to give him the authority. The way it seems like right now, we're going to give him the authority to do this. So that way there we can get this town back in shape and back rolling with these restaurants so we don't lose any. Are there any other comments from anybody else? Nobody? Okay. So at this point, we need this is an approval, right? Paul?
There's going to be 3 of them.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's actually 3 different documents to approve in there.
Okay, we got to do it all at once, or we got to do it separately?
Why don't we do it? You can bundle them all at once, or you can do them separate, whatever your preference is.
I'll go off to the senior member of the board, Mr. Hogan. Would you like to bundle it all at once?
Well, I think because there are a couple of different names in them, we probably should do them separately. Andy's name is in one, Paul's is in another, and I just want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Andy's that was, Melissa, was there an updated one for that?
Yeah, sorry about that. That was, I was remiss in editing one document. So the first document we have in our packet should say Town Administrator, and then the undersign should be Paul Sagarino. I think in the text, it says Building Inspector. I have to get it in front of me.
Yes, that's what I saw. So you're saying that it's all just one name and it's Paul's name?
Yes.
All right, then that's fine. Then one vote would do that then.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll take all three of them under one vote, and I'll need a motion and a second on that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we grant that authority to Town Administrator Paul Sagarino.
By Jim, second by
I'll second that.
Bob, had his hand up. Okay. Here we go, gentlemen. So it's all one vote at this point. Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Tigas,
Yes.
Mr. Priest.
Yeah.
Mr. Morandi, yes. Betty, did you get that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So 5-0-0 on that vote. Melissa, great job. Paul, fantastic. Andy, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Paul, you want to move right along?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item up, we have a request to install a water service in the town right away. Back in the 1990s, the town had given approval for a monument to be placed at the corner of Bedford Street and Terrace Hall Avenue. The area has been landscaped and maintained by a local family for many years, and they have requested permission for the water service so that they can continue the upkeep of the area. So if the board were to grant permission, the applicant would then need an improved water meter and backflow device installed within a secured cabinet on the site. The second thing we would need to do is have DPW develop an agreement to bill for the water, as well as the annual removal of the meter and the backflow device for the winter season. I know that forwarded all the backup information was in your packet, so that's essentially what the nature of this agenda item is.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, we'll start off with Mr. Tiggs. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, no questions. I'm okay with this.
Okay, Mr. Priest?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Runyon?
No questions.
Mr. Hogan?
No questions.
Well, that was easy. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve this water connection.
Motion by Bob, second by,
Second.
was that you, Michael?
Yeah.
Second by Michael. Okay, back to a roll call vote. Once again, Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Tiggs,
Yes.
Mr. Priest.
Yes.
Mr. Morandi, yes. There you go. That's all set. 5-0-0. Betty, you have that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sagarino, I believe we have an update coming.
Well, the long-awaited time for town meeting has finally arrived. I'd really like to thank our town moderator, Bill Byer, and our town clerk, Amy Warfield, as well as a host of folks from over at the school department for helping us put together an alternative style town meeting. As everybody is aware, it'll take place at 6 o'clock on Wednesday at the Burlington High School football field. And again, they put in a lot of work and thought into working with the Board of Health in order to make sure that we have a safe area with the audio visual stuff there. So video screen so the members can follow along and microphones and whatnot. So they put a lot of effort into it, and it will be a unique experience to have town meeting outside in the elements on Wednesday, but I think we're all looking forward to it. I know I speak for myself, John, Betty, Whitney at a minimum, that we worked a long time on getting town meeting ready, and we're hopeful for a very productive meeting, on Wednesday evening. So that's the update there.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, any comments? We'll start with Mr. Runyon. Hello.
No comment. Should be fun though.
Good. Mr. Priest.
No, well, I should say the only thing I'll say is make sure everyone brings bug spray.
Thank you. Mr. Tiggs.
Mr. Chairman, no, just I was going to say what Nick said, but it's going to be an interesting experience, I think.
And Mr. Hogan.
Do we know where we're sitting?
In our cars. No, I don't know.
Okay.
In speaking with Amy this morning, there'll be sort of an area of chairs set up sort of behind the stage where the graduation stage is set up for department heads and elected officials, as well as the stadium bleachers. The members will all be on the field in the comfortable seats, as they should be. So.
Me and Mr. Runyon will be next to the tiki. Me and Mr. Runyon will be next to the tiki bar on the left-hand side. I can say this: I really commend everybody involved. This is a first. It's definitely going to go down in history. I don't know. You want to look at it as we have the pleasure of being the Board of Selectmen. That was the first board to have an outside meeting since probably 1800. Who knows when? It's part of history. Enjoy it. Who knows how long we're going to be there? So I can't agree any more than bring the bug spray, and hopefully that it doesn't get too late and it doesn't rain.
The weather forecast looks pretty good.
So we're all set with town meeting. Well, I'm hoping. All right. We need an approval on just the May 11th, 2020 regular session for minutes. Anybody?
I'll make the motion that we approve the May 11th minutes.
Motion by Bob, second by Jim. Roll call vote. Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Tiggs,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yeah.
Mr. Miranda, yes. Betty, 500. We're gonna go to subcommittee reports right now. We're gonna start out with Mr. Runyon.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me congratulate Selectman Tigas on his re-election this year. Also like to offer my congratulations to Carl Foss and Catherine Bond, two new members to our school committee. It was an interesting race. It's nice to see that many folks participate in our local election. I do want to thank Steve Nelson, however, for more than 2 decades of service to the community on the school committee. A lot of exciting things happened during that time, and Steve was a big part of that. And I just wish him well in the future, and again thank him for his many years of service. Also, gotta give a shout out to the clerk's office. I thought I had an opportunity to go by the high school. I thought things ran very smoothly, lighter turnout, but under the circumstances, everything went very well. And so again, all the ladies in the clerk's office. A few notes from DPW. As you know, it's construction season. We were very fortunate actually this year to get a lot of our paving done early. Which means we'll be finished earlier. Given the COVID situation, traffic's been light, so it's been a little less disruptive this year than a typical season. You probably also see equipment over at the Human Services Building. The parking lot and the drainage is getting underway. The new sidewalks on Peach Orchard Road are complete. There's a number of items regarding the new water connection. Everything is progressing very well and actually ahead of schedule in some instances. So very busy season again for the DPW. The guys do a great job over there. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
It sounded like a chairman's report. I think I'm all set. That's good.
You should have checked
Mr.
with me
Hogan.
first.
Mr. Hogan,
No, I'm good, thank you.
you're good. Mr. Tigas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to echo Mike's sentiments about the election. We dealt with an unknown, and Amy and her crew and all the election workers and the residents for that part too. It was all new to us. Something like that was all new, but they adjusted. It worked out well. It was a very steady stream of people that day. Not overwhelming, but it was a nice steady stream. And the police officers did a great job. The election workers did a great job. And again, thanks to the clerk's office on that. Thank you for everybody who did come out and vote. I appreciate everyone who voted for me, and for the other candidates for their, because as we all know, it's never easy running a campaign. It's a lot of work. People sometimes don't realize how much work it is, but I want to thank all the candidates for their efforts. On the fire department, we have a new dispatcher. But if I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, and Joe, I don't know if you're going to mention it or Paul's going to mention it, but I think that letter we got today regarding the DPW employee needs to be mentioned. It has to be mentioned somehow, I think. So I'll just defer to one of you two to speak about that letter. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll also echo the sentiments of a very well-run election, both from town clerk's side of things as well as all the candidates. Given our situation, my wife and I popped down on Saturday, and everyone was handling everything very, very well. Also, I just want to give a big congratulations to all of the Burlington High School and Sean Sheen graduates who all completed their high school tenure under strange circumstances. Hopefully this only better prepares you for the world in front of you. So congratulations. Just a quick note that, as we start jumping into warmer weather, I know it's very easy for folks to forget to, maybe don a mask or, what have you, but, just continue to stay safe out there as, we start to open things back up. And then the ZBRC, their signage efforts that they have hopes to be coming before a town meeting in September with some information. They've been working very hard and diligently on that. And I believe that the ISAC will be making a presentation this Wednesday at town meeting. But otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Chairman's report, just so everything was covered. Once again, Amy did a great job. When you walked in, you went right or left. Everything was six feet apart. Did a great job, Amy and your staff down there, the workers. Can't say enough for them because they couldn't even bring in food for them this time. They had to get their own food and bring it out. I will mention very quickly, we had a little thing on the common this weekend, and it was well done, and there was no problem. So it was a positive. What else was there? I think everybody touched on everything. Jimmy, what you're talking about as far as DPW worker, I read half the email and then our meeting started. So I don't want to say anything that I didn't read, but I did read about the cell phone. So I'm going to defer back to you and thank the gentleman that was actually in the street sweeper. Okay, so go ahead.
I think Mr. Sagarino could probably sum that one up just a little better.
Okay.
Paul, unless you want me to, I just think it would be more appropriate coming from you.
Go right ahead, Jim. I think it was a great sentiment. It was a great email, and actually a great story.
we received a letter, or Paul received a letter from a resident who had misplaced her, thought she had misplaced her cell phone. And DPW workers, they do a great job, but Anthony DeSimone was operating the street sweeper, and he went above and beyond to in an attempt to empty the street sweeper to see if the phone is picked up by the sweeper itself. Turns out it was found on Cambridge and Wynn. It had fallen off of a car, I believe, but he stopped, picked it up. He did everything for our resident's cell phone, and she couldn't thank him enough. And these are the little things. When you talk about we've got the best employees, I know John Petrin used to say we have great employees. Those are the little things that that don't get mentioned often. But I think what Anthony did, and I'm sure it happens almost every day, and we don't hear about all the good things. But Anthony, hats off to you for doing that, and it makes all the town employees look great. And I just want to thank him for showing what a town of Burlington employee is like. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, the only
Thank
thing
you.
I would add to that is a resident had left the cell phone on her husband's car, and her husband drove away. And the street sweeper followed behind, so they assumed that the street sweeper had picked it up, but it had not. As they were going back to the DPW yard to empty the street sweeper to look for the phone, they spotted the phone in the middle of one of our busiest intersections. So Anthony pulled over and ran out and positioned the street sweeper so that he could grab the phone for our resident, and she was beyond thrilled by that. So I would echo what you guys are all saying. It's great to get a letter like that, and we know that our employees are out there doing great things like this every day. But it's really nice to hear from the residents when something great like that happens.
It is great to hear that, especially where it was the husband's fault once again that he took off with the car with the phone on the back of the car. Because we all know it wasn't her fault for putting it there. We understand that. So just making that clear, the poor husband was at fault for it. Poor guy. But anyway, we can move right on to town administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have much to add. I just wanted to let all the residents know that the department's put a lot of effort into creating videos to associate with the warrant articles. So for all residents and town meeting members out there, I think it would really, if it was possible for you to log on to that town meeting member website on the town's website so you can view some of these videos before town meeting. We would really appreciate it. A lot of effort was put into that to try to answer as many resident and town meeting members' questions prior to the meeting. So thank you, John, for reminding me of that fact. But to whatever extent the residents can spend some time watching through those videos, hopefully it will make for a smoother time for everybody on Wednesday night. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, Nick, Betty, Paul, anything from the public tonight? Questions or comments or? I
No,
got
sir.
Paul shaking his head no.
No.
Everyone's saying no. Okay. All I need to do is have a motion to adjourn. I think we're good.
Motion to adjourn.
In a second, and we need a roll call vote. I did walk out one fast. So roll call, Mr. Hogan. Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Tigas,
Yes.
Mr. Priest.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Miranda, yes. 500, motion adjourned.